Okay, Randolph Cassells, welcome, man. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, dude. It's been a minute. It's probably been 2 years since I think the last time we saw each other was at that show at the power plant you did for me.
That was the last time. I was actually telling Chad that, and I could not remember where the place was because
it was off that side road as you're driving up Little Conwood Canyon. You kind of get off to.
I was like, "Where's this
place?" Right, like a mile up.
Yeah, that was awesome. So thanks for having me.
Well,
there.
no, that was you did me a favor on that one, man. That was you came through in the clutch because I couldn't find anybody else last minute.
Hey,
so I appreciate
take
that.
Care of my people.
So I was thinking about how long I've known you, and I think it dates back to you were
a long time,
17 years old, I think.
Yeah, I think we first met through Freddie Alvarado.
Yeah, Freddie Alvarado.
Over actually not too far from here.
Yeah.
At like Kristen and Jamie's or something.
Yep.
Very long time.
Long time ago.
Those were the hookah. Those were the original.
The hookah dons. The hookah dons. Remember that that thing that he set up and we were trying to do for a little while.
Yeah, that was like those were like the first like impromptu parties. That was like pre-DJ.
Yeah, that was pre-DJ. That was when you were still. Yeah, you were still kind of
working
getting
with
those.
my dad. You know, our relatives at the time. You know, it was a different. It was definitely a different time. I barely had graduated high school, and I was hanging out with you guys because you guys were a little older than me.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so today we're gonna get into a lot of different topics, but the main thrust of this show is to try and find what pushes people who have a certain drive to them to continue pursuing their creative passions or their passions in general. The name of the podcast is the Palpable Passion Project, which is going to be a tongue twister, and it's going to be
it's triple P's right there.
Triple P's. But when I looked up and I said this to Brunel when I was talking to him yesterday, when you look up the definition of palpable, it's like a feeling you can. It's something that isn't there, but you can feel. It's like something that's like intrinsic in somebody. And when I started putting a list of people together who I wanted to be the first interviews, your name came to mind, and you were actually the first person that got back to me, and you got back to me really quick. And I mean, I respect the hell out of you for that, and I respect the hell out of you for what I've watched you become. It's been if you were 16, it's been 11, 12 years.
Yeah,
the person you are
next year. Yeah.
The person you are now is a much different person than the person I remember back from the Tony's days.
Definitely.
I guess, and the things I've watched you overcome, and kind of the work ethic I've seen in you is not the norm, it's more the exception. And so I want to put people in the chair across from me who are the exception to the rule and not the rule, and kind of give an expose of what that certain thing within them is that gets them to the point where they're following their dreams versus just trying to get the next check, right?
Right.
Because you can always realistically just go get a job somewhere and collect that money, but there are not very many people who forego that and don't just treat it like a hobby. They like give everything they've got to make whatever that thing is to them work. And you definitely are one of the definitions of that and the examples of that in my life. And so I'm glad you responded so quickly and we could put this together. So for those people that don't know, Randolph Cassells is your name, but is it DJ Dolph or just Dolph?
DJ Dolph.
DJ Dolph.
Yeah.
You are one of the best DJs I've ever seen. Whether it was, one of our friends or people I've been all over the world and seen, you're still to this day one of the best on the planet. You at this point you're traveling the world. You've taken your talents all over the globe. I think, right? Like you've played on. I've
definitely played on the world stages now, and each year it seems to be a miracle where I end up and the new experiences I get to see and the people I get to work with is always like, it's always mind-blowing to have the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what stage you get to, it's mind-blowing to say, oh, I get to do this show with so-and-so, or I get the opportunity to entertain for a certain group of people or of various companies that do huge things in America or worldwide, and they look to you and say, you're the guy, we're not going to pick anybody else, and we want you to be there. So coming from Utah, you know, it's not the norm.
No, it's not.
And we could definitely start there, because the competition of the field of DJing, just like any other business, you're better off in the big cities, you know, versus the small town, number one.
And we've had friends that have left Salt Lake for that exact reason, to
True.
go pursue a career elsewhere, because if they really wanted to get it, they had to move to Miami, LA, New York, somewhere.
Exactly.
Toronto. So what about when you, first of all, let's start how you got into DJing. What was it about, not just music, but what was it about doing it with your hands and kind of mixing it, and was there something specific that brought that kind of joy out in you? And
I guess if we're gonna backtrack, I definitely want to start all the way at the beginning, you know, because there's a real story there.
Yeah.
And we always, you know, I just want to always cover my bases.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, we're talking about, you know, how the inception happened, of how I, you know, got my start. And I used to put together these little mixes, not mixed, but I used to be so obsessive about music that I would create mixes for friends, like my friend Kevin and a few other people, and Chad, some people. And then what happened was I used to throw parties when my parents used to leave town, and everybody used to come over, and that was like, okay, I'm gonna be a Diddy type guy, because Diddy was awesome, so I wanted to be like him. And then so I'd throw these parties, drink all their alcohol, and then Chad, a friend, you know, some people may not know him from, you know, just this conversation, but a friend of mine, went to high school with him. His cousin came over to one of the parties, and he was already like in the midst of like, oh, I'm like looking at this DJ stuff, and had the opportunity to go to clubs, and I didn't have those experiences because I was like still in high school. I was like 16 years old. So I didn't like pay it too much attention, because I was like navigating, you know, just adolescence, and then trying to follow in the footsteps of my parents in finance. So it wasn't my intent to ever do music. And then a couple years went by, and I would do spreadsheets, because that was like my job. I would like do spreadsheets for expense reports, and I'd have like 8 hours a day just doing that, you know, clerical work. So I just had music going the whole time. So I'd listen to anyone from Led Zeppelin, you know, to, you know, current hip hop and everything in between. I didn't know that that was the framework I was building to become a DJ. And then so after a little while, I'd say 1 or 2 years later, I ran into the same guy, Bentley, again in the club at the hookah bar. It's not called the hookah bar anymore, I don't think so. But I ran into him at this venue. I was using a fake ID my brother made for me. And he was like, hey man, I'm street teaming for this club. I used to work with this guy at this resort. Now he's like a booking agent for a club / promoter, and I'm gonna street team, and that's how I'm gonna get into DJing. He's like, check this stuff out, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll come over. So when I went over to his house, he showed me the instrument for the first time, you know, and my first thought was, I want to produce for you. And then he started showing me mixes and stuff, and he was like, I don't know how to make the mixes, because at that time it was like so early in the days when technology wasn't like this. Everything wasn't so fast. It was still like, we were still at the birth of, you know, what is now high-speed internet broadband, you know, so everything wasn't the new technology, everything wasn't optimized yet, so everything was so like elementary that I went home like literally within a couple days. I had convinced my parents that, hey, I want this software because I gotta produce a mix for this guy, and I was like, I'll borrow the money from you, I'll pay it back, I just want this software. So I get this dinky software. We take some of it, like, because at the time what was happening was we didn't really understand the concept of completing a full mix, so we just take like different areas of somebody else's work and then be like, okay, we could mix these ideas of our own, and he would do the mixing. I had no like idea that I was ever going to become a DJ at that point. That was never going to happen. And then so I would sit in this corner with this like little fold up table, and while he would record, he'd give me little bits and I'd put it together. And then his little brother made us like the CD cover. His dad had like a printer that could print the CDs with the graphic on it, because his dad is a collector of sorts. So he'd collect random stuff, and then I'd say we printed out maybe 100, 200 CDs, and then we passed them out. And then overnight, I would say, and this is like not even a fabrication. It was like literally overnight from the idea. We pressed it out like within a summer. I would say it was like, oh, we have this mix out. We're now like, I'm sneaking in clubs with him. He's, you know, he's like 21. You know, you know, or you know. Yeah, he was like 21 at the time. I was still a younger guy. Yep. And I'd sneak in the clubs, and I would pretty much do whatever to keep the company going, because I believed so much. I didn't even know what I was believing in, but it was just so cool, you know? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to manage you. So then I'm like managing out of nowhere, and I'm still a kid, you know? But it's working, you know? We're going to this like club he's opening. We're getting like $150 to open. So, you know, he'd break me off out of that 100. You know, he had a regular job at the same time, and we were just trying to make it happen. And then after a while, I kind of started understanding what we were doing, and then I was promoting more, and then we had opportunities based on blind luck. What happened was, one of the days, the main promoter of one of the venues didn't show up. And we were just like, oh, we thought we were coming to work today. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to open the doors. And so the girl at the door goes, hey, who do I give the money to at the end of the night? At that time, remember, we're only getting $150. Yeah. So, like, no one's thinking about door money. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. We're just learning on the fly. So she comes over with a stack at the end of the night, and it was more money than $150. It was like, I think it was a couple $1,000 bucks, and we couldn't believe it. It was like weird. So I was like, this is what we should be doing. You know, like we should be throwing our own parties, you know? So at that point, I'm like, okay, I always went to this place, Tony's, when I was like 17 years old. Sorry, Tony, I know the business is not around anymore. I can't get in trouble. I used to go to Tony's with a couple friends, and I was like, let's go to Tony's and start a party there. So called Tony. He's like, okay, let's do it, you know. And then we started our own party, and then it grew. And then I'm like, let me get the best DJ in town at the time, which was E-Rock. Yep. So I'm like, I'm going to pay you your price, because I figured out the door money situation, and we're going to make sure you get paid all the time. So this is granted within the first 8 months. This is all happening
quickly.
This is all happening really fast. Okay. And I want to give you a good timeline of it, because 4 months before my 21st birthday, we're running Tony's, and I get in trouble because
I remember that night.
Because everything was going so well.
Yeah.
You know, you create a kind of you shine the light on yourself in a sense. So I shined a little bit too much light on myself just by being myself and being younger than, and I got in trouble for it. And instead of quitting, I kind of sat back. I went to drug and alcohol classes that were required, just by the state. They put you through that, regardless.
Yeah.
And it gave me a whole different perspective of what could happen if I did not have my head on straight. So it was actually a really huge blessing. So I was like kind of running things behind the scenes. We were still promoting shows. And some of the shows started to fail because I wasn't around, and it was just the infrastructure of everything was kind of getting a little bit too chaotic.
Yeah.
So at that time, I realized the potential of me DJing, because I was not only providing the service of manager, promoter, but I understood the music. I understood what the audience was looking for. So I was kind of honing my craft around the same time. So as I'm honing my craft out of pure necessity, the business grew and I became a DJ. And then I wasn't the second guy, because Chad was pretty much the second guy.
Yeah.
And I was like the third guy. But fundamentally, I understood what needed to happen, because I had the opportunity to stop and sit back and go, this is where everything is going. I better start paying attention, because this game is not about friends, because if it was, I wouldn't be in trouble. And I may have failed quicker if that didn't happen. So that kind of like lit a fire that made me want to achieve more, just based on that alone.
Yeah.
Because like I knew everything was going to go in the right direction, because just like we had a conversation off air, like
yeah.
if you have an idea and everything starts flowing without you having to try, you should do it.
Yeah.
So I realized that was where we needed to go. As things progressed, what happened was we moved into a house together, and it became a business. And then in business, I became a business person, and that's not always the best thing for your friendships,
yeah.
Because your friends want you to do all the fun stuff, and we're trying drugs and girls, and we have access because you're in entertainment. And we lucked out, because in the beginning, the same guy I spoke about in the beginning that found Bentley and he was doing Street Team for him, ended up running the biggest venue in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So we, out of blind luck, ended up in the prime real estate of Utah. A lot of people will start their career and have to navigate through all the hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we were still in the trenches, but we also got to see the high life
yeah.
at the same time, So that kind of gave us like hope, to say, okay, if we continue to do that, this could happen. And then a new venue opened in Park City called Downstairs, and I was still Bentley's manager at the time. And at that point, we're living in a house together, and a celebrity is involved in the ownership and stuff like that. So I kind of backed off, because I wanted him to have that shine. So when people would come, they would just see him.
Yeah.
And he actually took it more personally than I thought he was, because he thought I didn't want to go because, of different
yeah.
reasons. And it was more like, no, I want you to be the guy. If you're going to be the face of the company, be the face of the company, you know? And maybe that created a lot of pressure and then friction. And so through that process, our relationships got, tainted. That's the best way to put it, and that also created a different driving force, because here's a business that's functioning, and you have people thinking, hey, why aren't you as involved as you were before? But I had a vision, the vision was there. It's just like, if we executed the vision, and my mistake was I didn't understand that people are going through things.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand someone's going through something, you miss it, because you're so focused on what you're doing and what you want to achieve, So through that experience, I was able to see from the background that I'm probably don't want to be in the club scene because I'm like watching what it's doing to my peers, you know. So I walked by a building one day. I was just like out and about. I looked at a building. It was a really awesome building downtown, and I was like, I would love to DJ there one day, you know, as I'm like still honing my craft. Like literally, I don't have a job yet. People don't trust me to DJ. Like people have no clue. Yeah. But I could sell anything. Yeah. So I had that in the back of my head that if I make this call, maybe it'll happen, because if I've been able to blind luck myself into all these other situations, the only thing I could do to fail right now is not make the call. Yeah. So I call the place and I go, hey, I don't think you guys do DJs, but I DJ and I'd love to DJ at your venue. And they're like, this is not a venue, we're a restaurant. But we were having a meeting randomly about doing entertainment, because Twilight Concert Series is moving into downtown Salt Lake as well, because it's in California, it's in a few different places, and so they're moving it into Salt Lake City. And so she's like, call back, I'll talk to the owner and we'll see if we can get you a tryout. So I go to this tryout. I get all this makeshift equipment because I don't have my own and I have other people working, you know, so I borrow stuff, you know, and
throw together a whole setup.
We're going to throw it together, going to see if this works. So I get there and the lady gives me a hard time. Like, I almost quit the job, like, in the moment of getting it. I left so upset, and she calls me. She's like, don't worry about it. You know, I was just having a rough morning. We're excited to have you play. So I go back, and I play later that night. I'm like, okay, they're an older crowd. So I start playing, like, some of the stuff that I felt like they would like. And her favorite song was Summertime by Will Smith. She's like, if anything you do all night, play Summertime by Will Smith. So I played Summertime, and I played a bunch of other records, and they're like, come back next Thursday for the next concert. Yep. And then every week I had so much anxiety because I don't know if they're going to ask me to come back. So I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, like I really want to go back to this place. Like this is going to be like my baby if it happens. So it legitimately happens throughout the whole season, and then I'm like, oh my God, after the concert's in, I'm gonna be out of here. Yeah. You know, it's over after this, you know. I'm gonna have to start over again. You know, I got all this other stuff going on, but I really want to do this now. Like I got my feet wet, feels good, people like what I'm doing, and they keep asking me to come back. I must be onto something. Yeah. So I had the opportunity after the concert series ends, and she's like, Vita Tequila is looking to sponsor a night. How about you do it every Thursday? If it gets slow, we'll cut it off. And that was like to her thing. She's like, if it gets slow, we'll cut it off, and maybe you'll come back next summer. Well, a couple of years goes by, and then all of a sudden I'm making my name now. Mm-hmm. And the coolest part about this venue, it was like a really posh place. I didn't add that at the beginning, but it was a really posh place. And people like governors, ambassadors, influential people would go there because it wasn't like, oh, I walk in or order apps and I order my main course, I might have dessert. No, they like legit had a 5-course menu, you know, and you know, you're paying for a higher level of experience. So the clientele was there. So as the clientele started to see me, I started to get like little odd jobs here and there. And then a couple owners, like the W Lounge owner was like right down the street. So he saw me and he's like, after a while, you know, if anything happens, why don't you come over here and DJ, you know? And then Vita Tequila was like, hey, we're going to start partnering with this restaurant in Park City. We love what you're doing. We don't have a DJ or anything set up yet, but we'd love to get you involved. And I was like, okay, cool, you know. And then I made made that call, and they're like, yeah, we'll have you up there. And they had an older DJ. He was like in his 40s, and he'd just play. He was playing music, but he wasn't understanding flavor. He didn't have the soul for it. He was just doing it just like you said in the beginning. Some people just do things for the check. Yeah. You know, after that first moment, I got that first like big door money. I stopped thinking about the money. Yeah. I was like, how far will this road take me? Yeah. You know, so as I get to that, you know, place there in Park City, I become the music director within a year, and then I'm like the guy, you know, and then my skills are honing at the same time. Yep. And since that moment I hit silver, my career was on a trajectory that I can't even stop it to this day. It's its own ship now, you know. But that first part that I went off on a tangent about, all that was like the beginning of everything.
So within that, there are a few things. There was the initial kind of learning experience behind getting in trouble at Tony's, and realizing that if you're going to go down this road, you need to take it seriously, and it can't be something that you just do on a whim. And that's something I think that a lot of people who get into whatever it is that they're doing, they let that first kind of roadblock be the thing that determines whether they keep going or not, right? Definitely. And they view it in a binary way. And they say, well, because of this, I'm not going to do it anymore. Because of this, I'm going to let it, like your choice was, because of this, I'm going to let it be the thing that lets me take a step back, view everything from a perspective point of view rather than being in the moment, enjoying myself point of view. Yeah, exactly. And get some more out of this than just like that. I think that's something that learning experiences are really rare, and something that I want this podcast to be about is understanding when that opportunity comes, and understanding how to notice opportunity and realize what its effect can be. And it sounds like you view, you know, bad things can be opportunity. Obviously, good things can be opportunity. You know, like the opportunity that you guys are talking about, that you're talking about with Bentley knowing the dude that's just running the street team, and the fact that he got to take over the biggest venue. That opportunity just knocked, and you had to take it, right? Yeah. Just the fact that he was in a position that jumped you guys 10 levels. That took, you know, a lot of people in your industry have to hit 15 different milestones before that person even calls them. Exactly. And just the fact that he knew them was the reason. So sometimes opportunity knocks in a good way, and sometimes you have to realize opportunity from a learning experience.
And the road was still long. I mean, I was like, I dropped everything. Yeah. So I moved out of my parents' house. I was like helping coaching baseball. I was going to college. I was working, and I dropped everything because I had realized that that's my calling. Okay. Like, there's not many times you're going to have this opportunity. I can always do all the things I just talked about. I quit. Yeah. All of them I could go back and do today successfully, and everybody will be like, oh, my God, you know. But the main part was seeing it and knowing if I don't dive in this head first, I'm going to miss the opportunity. There is a train, and this is pre-big super DJ in the world, what it is now. And I saw it because I was like, if I was hearing it in songs before and I didn't know what it was, and I was already doing those things in my head, and I see it now, I should be doing that. And I slept on couches for it. I slept in Bentley's basement. I slept on a blow-up mattress for it. And I had parents, $1 million homes. Yeah. And I wasn't going. I was like, I'm going to make this my dream and not, like, take any money to do it. Like, I literally gave back my car. Because I didn't want having anything hang over my head to, like, prevent me from missing an opportunity.
Okay. So what was it that made you know this was your calling? Was it just a gut feeling, or was it?
I think 100% it was just me having faith.
Okay.
I just had faith. Like I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
You know, I just knew that this is something that I loved. Like it was just unconscious. Like there's just a moment that something takes over. It could happen in a good way to people, and it could happen in a bad way to people. And I felt it in a really good way. And there were bad days, there were bad years. You know, I've been through audits.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm running a business that's a contracted business, and I've had to get through those things and those hurdles. And people don't see that. You know, people see the glitz and the glamour of the business, and luckily I come from an intelligent background, and I'm not going to be taken advantage of, and I understand how to create value based on seeing other people that have created value through entrepreneurship. And I think that's another thing is it's hard for people that don't have natural entrepreneurs around them to ever dream of doing something outside of the box, because everybody knows I better go to school, or if they live in the country, I'm going to work on the farm. People just know what they know. So if somebody in your family is an entrepreneur, that is going to be like crucial to where you go later. You might not become an entrepreneur, but that spirit is somewhere in you that you can tap into it. So that was the moment I'm like, value is important. And then when somebody messes up and you realize like, oh, there's value there too. Okay, I want some of that. I want a piece of that pie over there. And then, okay, this part of the business creates value. That's more value. So I'm going to add to my price because, you know, and you realize, you know, every step of the way you have to create value, because the best part of the business is knowing your worth.
Yeah. And so I think that you actually touched on another thing I wanted to get to, and I want your opinion on, is the process. Most people only see what we put out there, right? Like we put out there, even when I was doing some stuff with you, we only put out the highlights, right? We only put out the things that are amazing to us. But they don't see the endless hours. Like I know for me with this whole thing, I've sat in this room now for probably what amounts to 20 days of just hours, and this is the second piece of material that will be released. This is the second hour and a half or 2 hours that will be released to the world, and they don't see the and that's just in this room, let alone the years of sitting in another place, in a room in my house I built to be, or in a room in Paul Gordon's house to be the place that we're sitting there and recording and talking about these issues, or talking about different things and interviewing people. Like this is something that's really new to me, is interviewing somebody. And I'm trying to make it so I don't ever look. I have my generic stuff, but I'm trying to make it that I never look at this, and that this turns into a conversation back and forth, so that we can really get into the things that make you unique, and each individual you unique, but finds that common ground that all of you have, of like a fire in your belly, or whether it's the ability to hear no 1,000 times before your first yes, or the ability, like all of these things that people never see. People never see the process, and people never see the time and energy you put into your craft, whatever it is, to become that, you know, that special individual that makes it past the first hurdle. Because the first hurdle is what I in my experience, the first hurdle is what stops 99% of people from even pursuing their life's work, or their magnum opus, as it were.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've admired other people, just like everyone does admire someone, and the one thing I've learned about all the people that I've admired is it's not their failure, it's how they rise from the ashes. You know, it's like in that moment of pure doubt, you know, no one's looking for you, everyone has negative energy pushing towards you, you feel like your back's against the wall, you don't have a pot to piss in, you know, and everyone is saying, why are you doing this? Or I'm better than you, or I'm the person that showed you how to do it.
Yeah.
That alone, if you are a person that is scared of rejection, that'll shut you down right away.
Yeah.
You know, and I just always just used it as fuel. Like anytime I got any type of cloud over me, that's when my best work comes. That's when the right people gravitate into my life, and it shows me what I did wrong and where I should go, versus, oh, I failed, let me quit now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's something in failure that is falling forward into your next success.
That's definitely true.
Like
definitely
you're
true.
falling into your next success, but you just have this impression that, holy crap, I already handled this much stress. How am I going to handle this next level of stress that, you know, and it's the same thing when you're performing, you know, as you become, you know, bigger and I'll kind of move forward past silver, you know, when you become something and people start knowing your name, then you have to live up to a reputation, you know, you got to live up to the work, you know, and the persona, which you're talking about, absolutely. You know, which is we're getting to, because that's what people see now, is that they see the success, you know, each step of the way in that success, there was a random hurdle that I could have never, ever thought, you know, that would put me down or make me feel, you know, like I was worthy, you know, because sometimes you're doing something and somebody could totally just throw you off, you know, or something could happen to throw you off. And if you can't find the passion, you know, through whatever it is that you do at that point, you lost your purpose, you know, and your whole purpose came from what you were doing, you know. And so along the way, as I got more successful, you know, and I was like in my early 20s, because I started early.
You started young. Yeah,
I started early.
Well, you started really early too.
You know.
Yeah.
So
well, and you started on the other end early. Like if you're talking about your passion is DJing, I think when I look at you, I don't just view your passion as DJing. And this is one of the things I also want the through line for this show to be, is passion is not just that one thing, right? Like passion is whatever you're focused on in that moment that puts that fierce focus. Like I'm passionate about skiing to the point where I got to a point where I'm a teacher now, and I'm teaching 100 different people a month, and I'm trying to make a career out of that. I'm passionate about having conversations with people and learning as much as I can, and just being a sponge for as long as I can till something clicks. I mean, I remember having a conversation with you a couple years ago where you were like, we all know you have it. We're just waiting for it to click. Yeah. And that was an eye-opening experience too, because that kicked me into gear in my
I remember I remember that. I remember that conversation we were having. Yeah.
And so it kicked me into gear in one area of my life and completely shut down another area, because I realized that to become truly good at what I was doing up at Alta, or what I do in the winter, I had to dedicate myself to it and not treat it like I took a mentality of wanting it to not just be a job where I get to ski for a living, but I also become somebody who people can rely on up there, and become somebody that is good at teaching skiing, and I can create a client base and have people come back from all over the world every single year just to ski with me. That's a cool experience, and that's been a great learning experience and a great springboard into other opportunities that I take that mentality into.
And you just said it best right there. I think it's the reliability that builds the company.
Yeah.
The reliability builds the company. Like whatever you're doing or passionate about, if you're unreliable, or you are sometimes a person that doesn't do what they say they're gonna do, because you could always show up on time.
Yeah.
But doing exactly what you say you're gonna do is another thing.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people miss those two steps because everybody's looking for the end game. You know, what is this gonna get me?
Yeah.
You know, and if you're looking for what it's gonna get you, every time, you know, I hear you speak, I could hear you not talking about the end.
No, because to me there is no end.
Yeah.
There is no end to this process. The end is when my eyes shut at the end of my life. Like it's never going to be over. I hope the learning experience, like somebody very wise once told me, and I was blessed with some great mentors when I was, before I met you, I was down in Las Vegas, and
that's right.
And I was blessed with really, really intelligent people that said the day you stop learning is the day you start dying. So like these, and they're cliche quotes, but those are really the things that stick in the back of my head and tell me that, like, as long as, and also one of the through lines I want this podcast to be about is like, this is something that I'm doing because I want to learn from you guys, because you guys, younger or older than me, doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, like, you guys have achieved something that I'm hoping for in other areas of my life. Now, I've achieved, a pretty reputable career in skiing, but that's one aspect of my life, and that's one passion. And I definitely don't want my life's work to be something I can only do 4.5 months a year, unless I decide to move to South America.
Yeah, or get to travel everywhere.
And it's taken me all over. It's taken me everywhere. It has given me the opportunity to go different places and try things out and everything. But I also I like this town. I like this place, and this is where my family is. And I don't want to be away from all of that for 6 months just because I want to pursue only skiing out of my life.
Yeah, you want to be more expansive.
Yeah. And so the other thing that you brought up was people saying things to you, people saying you can't do it. Why are you doing this? So what have you found? Like, is there, and on the other side of that, I've heard from people that they don't ever need to hear, like, it doesn't matter what other people say. Like, I'm going to go do this because I have the fire in my belly to go do this. Is there a balance there, or is it?
Yeah, because you could definitely, I was almost going to make a decision the other day that could have potentially jeopardized a lot of different things in my life.
Okay.
Just because sometimes you believe so much in yourself that you forget how you got there. And how you got there is not through yourself. It's through other people. And those other people, for good or bad, just listen to what they have to say. Not in every conversation, there's something there. In every good conversation, there's a lot there. In a bad conversation, there might be one note there. It could be just you not talking to that person again.
Yeah.
Or that person could be telling something you don't like, so you're offended, and then you go, I'm gonna go in my way either way. So whatever you have to say doesn't matter. And the balance I found is to sit back and let intuition set in. Give your time to have intuition set in, because if you don't have that, that's something that fire, it could, fires start things that could burn houses down, or it could keep you warm, So when it's keeping me warm, I could definitely tell the difference. If I feel like I'm acting out of my ego, I'm disservicing my intuition.
Yeah.
And I've realized that, through experiences, and the key core people in your life that always have supported you, the minute they tell you something's wrong, you should probably check in and do a self-check-in and take a time out and go, okay, I may be unbalanced. And it's hard to, because humans aren't instinctively followers. We're hunter-gatherers, especially men, and especially if you're getting advice from men or female, and you're in a position of power and you accrue power, you will realize that the moment you lose respect, for other people's advice, you lose respect for yourself, and you're not going to get it back. There's no coming back. So anytime I'm making big decisions, I talk to my core audience, and let them kind of go, oh, that's interesting, or I look for clues.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for clues.
Yeah.
There's clues in the conversation.
Yep. So and the other thing I wanted to touch on was fear. Obviously, has a lot to do with. I think it's that initial roadblock thing again, but I think that it was funny when I was talking to Brunel about this. He was like, I didn't have the fear at the beginning because I didn't have any expectations. So I was just throwing stuff out there, and it wasn't until the expectations came that the fear came, because all of a sudden now I've made a couple albums. People have a certain expectation of the quality of work I produce, and that fear didn't set in at the beginning. It set in once he had already become somewhat successful. And for me, it's like the fear took hold at the very beginning. And like the fear of even putting stuff out there was more so than what the expectations of anybody else are. It's just more or less like I'm fearful of even getting started. So where do you kind of fall on that line? Was there ever a fear? Did you always just...
Well, to go back, I remember every Thursday I was in.
Yeah.
I was in
So you're
in a state of anxiety.
Like,
I was like, I knew we had something, but at the same time, I gave up everything for it. So there was like, oh my gosh, if this doesn't work out, maybe it's not meant for me, you know?
Yeah.
So there is that, you know, I would say challenge.
Yeah.
You know, that hits you. You go, oh crap, I got to make this work now. You know, I have to make this work. And then once you make the sacrifice, like there's something that is so important that everybody misses. Like I remember I get a phone call. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. My sister calls me. She goes, your dad passed away, right? And I'm under contract with Condé Nast. I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, crap, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to be able to honor him in the way I wanted to. So the only way I could honor him is bust my butt, go out there and crush it every single time. So from that moment, I have not let off the gas because that was a huge sacrifice for me.
Yeah.
You know, so once you realize that, because people talk about it like, you have a new baby, you go out on the road. I don't have any kids, but I'm just saying, people with kids, you know, make those sacrifices. You don't see their kids for years, and the family doesn't realize what you have to do for them sometimes.
Yeah.
And this touches on something that I misread in the relationship with Even Bentley, because he was going through so much, and I couldn't even see it because I had my own whirlwind, you know? So you have to realize people are out there sacrificing, you know, and if you don't realize that person's sacrificing or you need to sacrifice, you can't have your cake and eat it. How are you going to do that? You know, like how are you going to have the best of both worlds? I can't have a perfect life and still do what I do. It's almost impossible until you put yourself in a position much later on to do so. So I think you have to have the ability to create, you know, and have the ability to have sacrifice, and people are not always going to be understanding. You know, it's something
you're gonna run into people who are not gonna understand your process, and that's another big thing that I've tried to advocate for, is that when you run into that thing that moves you, or when you run into those things, because again, I don't think it's one thing that you can be passionate about. I think that bringing passion to the table is something we can all do a better job at, and it's something that if you had a world full of those people, it would probably be a little bit better of a world and less of a drawn out and just like let life fly by type of world. But your process and your ability to push through sometimes the relationship, if it needs to be that, right? Like if it needs to be the relationship, if it needs to be the friendship, even if it's your own family, sometimes, a lot of the times, they're not going to understand your process. And
I hear everyone hears the same statement. It's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any lonelier than at the top.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize it because I am on the road. You know, I am in a position of power, you know, in my craft, not in the world. You know, and you realize when you get there and you accrue all the things that you want, you go through all the obstacles, you achieve everything. Everybody was running at a different pace.
Yeah.
Everybody's pace is different.
Yep.
So my pace was maybe faster in the sense that I decided to make the sacrifice. So other people's paces are slower because they're waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
That something is not going to happen if you don't sacrifice what is already in your life.
Yep.
You know? Like that 5 o'clock, oh, I want to watch basketball because it's my favorite team is the Bulls and they're on at 5. That can't work when you got to make a phone call or practice or take a meeting or come here.
Yeah.
You know, like I could say, hey, Chris, tomorrow. And you know, and I could keep postponing it, but it's in the moment now. You have to make that choice that this is what you want to do because it's for the betterment of self. Because me coming here betters me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's not gonna better me if I just watch somebody making millions of dollars playing a sport already that I understand the function of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that a million times.
Yeah.
You know, I was just on the beach. I like the beach. But you know what's more exciting? Coming home and knowing that I have these responsibilities because people are reliant on my craft and they believe in me. And that's the next thing. Because once you hit success and you're lonely at the top, people still believe in you. And it's like they might not give you the love that you want, you know, or you feel like you deserve, but they still believe in you. And for that belief, I can't half step. I can't, you know, take a break. You know, I take breaks, you know, but at the same time, you have to know that if I want it more, not more than the next guy, but what I have envisioned in my head, if I want that, it takes something more than what I'm doing right now. And that's what happens when you get up and you write, you know, you're writing down this and you call that guy and you're like, okay, I'm gonna compile this and then, but I still need all this other content. So it's just a constant learning process.
Yeah.
You know, just a constant learning process of self and self-motivation and finding inspiration and knowing that it's the opportunities that you're not thinking about that are going to change your life.
Yeah.
Because all the big ones come from the days I'm not present. Every time I'm not present at an event and I'm like off in La La Land and I'm killing it unconsciously or something, you know, and I go, nothing happened that night. It's just a regular night. And then I get a call and it's like, hey, it's eBay. We want to give you X amount of dollars for this project. And you go, when did you see me?
It was the night that you weren't paying attention. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
you had it on cruise control.
I had it on cruise control and I wasn't, you know, I was doing what I was meant to do.
Yeah. And
that's where the best opportunities, like you're like, hey, and that's why I get back to people so quickly.
Yeah.
Because when you call me and say, hey, a friend, it's a last minute thing, you know, this is a random night, are you available? Can you make this happen for me? Of course. Because for me, if I stay home and just twiddle my thumbs all night, how am I progressing?
Yeah.
What am I going to learn from the craft? You know, how are we going to have that conversation we were just talking about if I don't go?
Yeah.
You know, and everybody always says that, and there are times where I don't go, and I can't regret those days because the days I show up, I'm attentive. So opportunities come at any part. You just have to be there, and you have to want to be there.
So I think that that's all extremely valuable, but I also think that there's something within, and it mainly affects our generation, but it's definitely, I think it affects the world because of the world we live in and how fast everything moves. We don't, and it's something my uncle taught me, and it was actually my great uncle, so a much older man, about, and it's something I pride myself on, is having like an old man work ethic. Mm-hmm. An old man work ethic means that you have the patience to see something through to the end, even though in a world that's moving at the speed of light. And because of the instant gratification of, you know, the double click on the like, or, you know, putting something up and immediately getting a response to it, or immediately with the immediacy of email versus the way it used to be with letters in the world that he was in, patience is something that we just don't have anymore in most of our lives. And so we tend to shortchange ourselves if we don't put, when we're putting something together. And the reason I think that this all finally came together was because I was patient enough for that moment of clarity to be like, okay, what is the conversation you actually want to be having right now? In a world full of what seems to me to be negativity, in a world full of people putting each other down and it being such a binary, you're either this or this, what is the one thing that you want to add to the world? And it's just conversations with people like you. But if I wouldn't have given myself the opportunity to let all of those other hours go by and all of those other terrible conversations go by, I would have thrown the towel in as soon as I would have just given this stuff to Nikki and been like, you do it. I'm done with this. I'm going to walk away.
One of the first podcast guys. You guys were out there the last, situation that you guys had. You guys were early.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're early. Sometimes you hit the sweet spot. Sometimes you're late.
Yeah.
And in business or in anything, just like I just want to touch on the point that you're trying to make, doesn't matter. If all those combinations is, no, everybody has their own pace. You're going to utilize that information later. Everything you learned from your last experience is going to transition into the next experience. Mm-hmm. And you have to be present to be able to do it. And going back to what you say of clarity is, for me, I meditate. I spend time meditating because I'm a creative, so my brain is
always
wheels
going.
Are like turning. I need to know. I want to understand. What I don't know, I need to know tomorrow. So I had to literally start meditating every day and finding my center, and just taking deep breaths. Because a lot of the time we're just, especially in performing, when people freeze, and I see a lot of people do it. I don't have that much trouble with stuff like that. Well, as I got into the business, people don't slow things down. And if you can't slow things down in the moment, like you see how I just took, I need to collect my thoughts.
Yeah.
Slow things down. Find your groove. People are waiting on you. There's nothing unless you got a bus to catch, and you slept in, that's your fault, But the majority of life, whether it's something negative that's happening or something positive, it's really happening at your own pace, and you can learn everything fast and you can get there fast, or you could take the long road, you could take the scenic road, it's just all about actually knowing the information that you have in your war chest, and can I tap into my war chest right now and get everything I need out of it? Or am I going to freeze because I don't have the ability to say, oh, give me a second, or I don't know. Everybody wants to know.
People aren't willing to say, I don't know, let me get back to you.
Like,
that's a big.
Or just like, I'm inexperienced. People want the job so bad that they'll take a job, not know how to do it. I'm the guy that goes, hey, that's not my expertise. I can facilitate it for you, even if you're not gonna book me. I'd rather facilitate your needs than look out for my own interest.
Yeah.
Because just like meeting with you today, I'm not looking out for my needs today, but it will benefit me because guess what? It will be an addition to what I'm already doing by creating more content.
Yeah.
People want to see me outside of the spectrum of just music and, where my music is located and stuff like that. People want to understand, and this is, I legit am doing this for a kid that might say, hey, I saw DJ Dolph when I was 7. I want to know more about his story. That's the actual job.
Yeah.
That's the job. You have to do it for somebody else first.
Yep.
And then it'll come full circle on how much information you've gathered, what I've learned from this experience. I walked in here, you taught me like several different things, before I even sat down, and that's true to scale. If you want your life to scale, look around, take time, understand.
Don't rush the process.
Don't rush the process.
But don't get that confused with I'll do it tomorrow.
That's another one. And we talked about that before.
Yeah.
Because I could have told you, because you said Monday or Tuesday. I'm like, this guy wants Monday.
Yeah.
So I'm here Monday.
Yeah.
You know, and then you wrote me last night like, is he gonna hit me back on it? You know, and I'm like, nope. 5 seconds later, I'll see you at 3 o'clock.
And that's actually a technique I learned in real estate, was giving people. It may seem like I'm like, this guy wants Monday, but it's more or less you give people to, and this is just a skill you can take out into sales or take out into whatever, like setting meetings, is when somebody commits and says yes, let's do it, instead of saying, well, let's arrange something in the future, you say, okay, Monday or Tuesday. Give them two options, because most people will get back to you and say, okay, let's Monday. Yeah. And it's like morning or afternoon. Mm-hmm. Afternoon. Okay, 3 or 5. Exactly. And narrow it down to 2 options, because I have not experienced a situation yet where it's like, where I take that process, because that's, again, a process that I went through, where I was trying to set appointments in real estate and it wasn't working, and I was like, okay, how do I do this? Yeah. How do I get through how do I navigate these waters to start setting appointments every single time? It was start giving people 2 options. And 100% of the time, I have not had somebody yet go back and be like, well, you know, that doesn't really work for me. Let's just get together in the future. It's 100% of the time, in my recollection at least, it's always, okay, yeah, he's giving me 2 options. I'm going to take one of those options. And then you just keep narrowing it down until you're in the room with somebody. Well,
and you're giving them you're just giving them more possibilities than dictating where things have to be, where things have to go. And I hear it all the time when I go to other places, and they go, man, you're so easy to deal with, because some people just send over their rider and they only want red M&Ms. Yeah. And I'm like, I want to take care of my own logistics. Yeah. Like, just have the stuff that I need to do my job at the best, like, possible level. Like, if you have those tools, why are you my personal assistant?
Yeah, I'm perfectly capable of handling I'm not so jaded that I can't handle my own personal world.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And I mean, I will admit that after a while, when you get to a certain level, you do need help, and I have had help. Yeah. And I've had other people, like an agent, I've had a manager, road manager, and I've had the whole lot of it. And I've learned, if I'm not present or on top of those people, they're representing me wrong. Yeah. You know, they're making me look like, hey, this guy's needy now. Yeah. Randolph before, DJ Dolph before was so down to earth. When did his nose like go so far up into the sky? Yeah. Like, you know? And so it's careful, just like balance. That's another balance of the whole process, you know, of having that.
Yeah. And it's something where you don't want to become the person that's like, I only want a bowl of red M&Ms, and if you don't have a bowl of red M&Ms, I'm kicking the bowl over and walking out on this show because you broke contract. It's more or less just staying on top of the people you surround yourself with, right? And that's not, you know, as you attain certain levels of success, I think that's not just managing the people you have around you, or not just managing the people that you hire, but managing the relationships you have, and making sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are trying to, in their own life, strive for the best, which is another thing I'm really excited about this process.
That's the toughest.
Because I feel like the people that I'm going to be sitting with and the people outside this room are all people who are here, it seems like 24 hours a day. I can walk in this building at 11 o'clock at night sometimes, and there's somebody sitting in that big room back there, and it's like, holy cow, these guys are motivated. But I also think that being able to have these conversations with people are going to enhance the way that I do my thing, and the way that even bring something I've been doing for almost a decade now, which is my skiing thing, bring that to a whole new level, and see if I can take that to even higher heights than I've already taken it to, instead of being complacent with, like we were saying earlier.
And it's hard because if you are really inspired and you're really motivated, you're going to outgrow a lot of people.
Yeah, and
you're going to outgrow a lot of people. You're going to outgrow businesses you work with. You're going to outgrow your family. You're going to outgrow conversations because your brain doesn't function the same way anymore, you know? And you have to find different elements, whether it's in a person or nowadays you can find it on YouTube or just different, you know, enlightening documentaries or books. And, you know, you have to go and find it because at some point there is a cap of who around me at this place where I reside or in my industry that I work with, you know, they may no longer serve a purpose other than people that I know. You know, the purpose could only be in books that I read because what happens is I can only be motivated by intellectuals that have achieved that level of success or greater. You know? And it's hard to rub shoulders with those people every day because guess what? They're busy people. You know, they're not gonna. They don't have every day. They're not babysitters. You know, they have stuff they want to accomplish, and they're looking. You know, and that's the thing I saw the most in everything that I've done. The most successful people in the world still like have networking on a whole different spectrum. Like they are willing to listen to conversations that. You'd be like, you had time to listen to me for 20 minutes? And you're like, how? And it's like, but I wanted to. You know? Because they want to see if you got it too. You know? And that's a lot of it. Because if you don't, because one day you could be off. I've had a conversation with somebody named Kevin Lyles. You can look him up. Very successful person. And I wasn't on my A game that day. And if I were on my A game, it could have been something for me, but I wasn't. And the conversation was good, you know, but I was overselling myself. I was overselling myself. I was already there. And I should have known that I was already there. And I was like overselling myself, and I was like, man,
that was,
you know?
That was something I learned about girls. That was a thing that struck me very hard with girls. Like you go out on that first date and it's like I'm gonna sell myself. I'm gonna be the master of this. And at some point you realize you're in the room because they want to be there with you. You know what I mean? Same thing you can take into business. They're in the room with you because they want to be there with you. If they didn't want to be there, a successful person is not afraid to walk out of a situation
every single time.
They're like, if you're there with that person that can change your world or in that situation that can change your world, you're there because that other party wants to be there with you. Don't waste your time trying to BS your way through it. You know, like be really real with the situation. And again, I think it gets back to what you were talking about earlier. Breathe, calm down, realize the situation you're in and the magnitude of it, because you can't also shortchange yourself. But there's a magnitude of a situation, and you have to be very real with yourself, with your surroundings, with your craft, where you've taken it, and how you've done everything that you've done to get you to that point.
Right.
And that's something that I just think that if you have the ability to kind of stop and just breathe, I think 90% of the time that's all it takes.
That's all it takes, and you should have confidence, and you don't have to show it. You know, and it takes a long time to become relaxed because I'm a younger person still, and especially when I'm meeting all these people, I was much younger. You know, so I had advantages and there's disadvantages to being alpha male, really sure of myself. At times overly cocky, you know, because I can deliver and I feel like I can, you know. But it was the moment I went, oh, okay, if I didn't even say anything, I would have got everything I wanted out of that one deal, you know. And I've had many deals go the way I want them to because of confidence, and I've had deals just not work because of the same confidence, because I had too much confidence.
Yeah.
You know, so it's and that's the thing. It's like, I think that might be the theme of our conversation is balance.
Yeah.
And balance and breathing, you know, because all the other stuff, everybody knows about sacrifice.
Yeah.
Everybody knows to be nice to people, have a good reputation. Everybody knows those fundamental things. But balance and breathing and knowing that in that moment you were meant to be there. Because, like any situation, if it wasn't meant for you, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
You know? And so through that one conversation, and I've had multiple conversations with people, but maybe that situation wasn't for me. And I've thought about other conversations where I go, God, if I was a little bit less intelligent, they would want to work with me because they would have an advantage, you know? Because that's also, you know, as a disservice. I see a lot of people that are in my craft or in any sport or any business field that get taken advantage of because they might get all these glitz and glamour things that you may see, but they own 0% of it.
Yeah.
And I own 100% of everything.
Yeah.
Because I go into every conversation with my value, and I'm not going to give away my value just because so-and-so is going to do this for me. No, it's never, that's the poorest decision you can make in your life, is realizing that you're not a partner.
Yeah, and I think that what you said there is really, really important. You may have lost some things because you're too smart. I think that you probably weren't supposed to be in those situations.
Exactly.
Don't be afraid to miss out on something, because failure, like you were saying at the beginning, failure in some situations backs you right or pushes you forward right into the next situation you're supposed to be in. And don't let, you know, your intelligence about something, if you're confident, cockiness and confidence are two different things. Cockiness is kind of unwarranted. Confidence is your knowledge of yourself and your knowledge of what you bring to the table. Don't fear that. Don't fear that, because that fear thing will get you. It'll stop you in your tracks, and it'll make it so that the process doesn't have the ability to continue going forward.
Yeah, and just don't dumb yourself down. This is another thing about balance. Don't dumb yourself down when you're doing business. You can dumb down a product.
Yeah.
Because people's palates can only take so much.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be able to water down. Even at a higher IQ, your work could fly over someone's head.
Yep.
So that part you can dumb down. But the business that you're running, that function of the business, don't ever be less thereof. Like, you need to be 100% attentive. You want to be, you know, forthright. And you have to know that this is my vision, and I want to execute this vision. Don't go in there and go, I had a vision, but, you know, I'll go along with this play because you're going to do this for me.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, you've lost your soul already. And that's what people don't understand about selling out. Selling out isn't doing something for money.
No.
It's someone taking your vision and going, here, I'll trade you your vision for mine. You'll be a sponsor of my new vision. You know?
Yep.
And that's where people get,
you become the mascot of their reality, and that's not something you should ever accept.
Because in selling out, I could sell a remix to someone, make a bunch of money off of it, and no one would know, or people would know. But at the same time, I'm doing exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing something in my job, or I'm doing work for hire, you know. But when I'm taking my product and going, you know what, today I'm only going to do this specific type of music now because that's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. What's the point?
What's the point of me being like everybody else? The only reason I got here is because I went in the opposite direction of everybody else. Everybody, and you know everybody I work with or have worked with, and everybody goes in their own directions, and some people find their niche, and that might be a cap for them, and they might like that cap. I just don't believe in capping myself.
Yeah, and it's all personal. It's no shade at anybody.
It's like if that's your limit, that's your limit.
Yeah.
But you cannot allow yourself to limit yourself based on other people's limits.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to be, and this is something else I wanted to talk to you about, was just when you get it to a point that you're at now where you're very successful. Mm-hmm. You've now been all over the world. You've taken this and gone from making $150 to whatever it is you're doing now. $150 split between how 2, 3, 4 people, depending on what you're doing that night. To that first night, somebody hands you $1,000 and you see the capability of what this can become.
Don't forget the question, but I want to go back.
Yeah.
There was a day that we were so broke.
Yeah.
And we needed to we just needed enough gas to get to the venue.
Yep. And
we got to McDonald's and couldn't even buy a $1 hamburger.
Yeah.
And we needed that check so bad at the end of the night, we waited till 3 o'clock.
I remember nights like that. I remember nights with you like that. I remember when we first introduced like when I went up to Tony and I was like, "You really want to turn this night into something?"
Yeah.
$3 shots of Patron. That changed the game, because all of a sudden it was our Patron Thursdays. Yeah, Patron Thursdays. But bringing people up behind you, I want to know it's not just about having the conversation and being like, but what do you see? What do you look for in somebody else when you are willing to take somebody up? And show them the way up the ladder instead of just being at the top, because it's obviously lonely for sure. But is there?
I do help a lot of people, just based on my ability.
Yeah.
And people needing the same entertainment on the same night, and they want.
Yeah, your schedules don't work out.
Yeah. There's that, and out of necessity, just like at the beginning, you have to start doing something based on the product growing.
Mm-hmm.
When I have brought people on that sometimes you're fond of in the beginning, and then you grow less fond of them because that person is trying to be you versus where they started in they want the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so it's much harder to show someone, the ropes.
Yeah.
The quality that I look for the most in anyone, in anything, even right now, is jealousy. If you got it and I sense it in you, I'm done. The minute I feel any ounce of jealousy, I can't even deal with it, because I come from I'm from Jamaica. I come from a third world country. I moved to America when I was about 10 years old. I had no idea about racism. I had no idea about how the cultural dynamic is. I just came from a place that was very happy. Mm-hmm. It was just like people that were white, Indian, Asian would come there, and they're just always happy. And I ironically, spent a lot of time with my grandma, and she lived next to a church. So I always had faith and just belief in people, Not until I got to America and I realized, whoa, this is a whole different world. I got to be careful, because just like when I got in trouble in the beginning, it wasn't because I didn't get in trouble because I was doing anything wrong. I was just too good at what I was doing. So somebody had to find something wrong.
Let's be honest, somebody made a phone call, and it wasn't you. Like, nobody would have showed up that night if somebody hadn't gotten a little bit angry.
Yeah, so people, and so I've always realized the minute the relationship changes with the person and the person stops being themselves, and that's what jealousy is.
Yeah.
When you stop being yourself.
Yep. And
you want to be somebody else. That's your problem. Because there's nobody in this world I want to be like at this moment in time. There's not not a famous person in the world, because I've had so much fun being Randolph from the beginning. Like, why would I want to trade it in for a car that I don't even know how it drives?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've just realized, like, once I see somebody shift, you know, I'm not saying don't. I'm saying elevate yourself.
Yeah.
Become more conscious. Become a better person. Do all the things that you want to do, and if success pushes you in a different direction, go in that direction. But what I'm saying is how you represent yourself with people, and how
Yep.
you talk to someone, and how you deal with them. If there's a shift in that, and it's like Chad. Chad's the perfect person. Chad has always been Chad.
Chad is never going to be anybody else but Chad.
Yeah, and
like
that's why he's the dopest guy, and everyone goes, God, he's so hard.
He's so intense, but it's like, but his intensity, he brings it to everything he does. I don't care. I loved watching him get into real estate. I've loved watching him get into his DJ thing. Even when he was waiting tables, he was just as
same guy.
Yeah, same dude,
guy.
100% of the time.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And other people I've seen change.
Yeah.
I've seen multiple people change, and I go, God, you didn't change for the better. You're changing for the worse right now.
And just so we're clear, it's okay to emulate ideals in people and things in people that you see that are great.
Take the qualities.
Yeah, take the qualities, and if you see something in somebody else that you want to make a change in your life because they're more consistent than you, because they're more, you know, you can apply those things to your own life, but apply them to your life. Don't become them. In a way.
Well, it's not that's the quality, you know, versus the quantity in it, you know, when it's what happens, and I could illustrate it in one word.
Mm-hmm.
It's undermining.
Okay.
You're undermining everything that you stood for, because now now when you start trying to be like somebody else, you're undermining them.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't even realize it, but you're putting them in a position to go, holy crap, I'm okay with us all doing what we do, you know, and I'm okay with us having the same connects. I'm okay with everybody getting the same jobs. That's why no one walks in my footsteps, because you can't. Because I've already walked that road. I paved that road already.
Yeah.
You know, no one's going to pave that road again. You can fix the road, but you're not going to pave the road. There's roads in America that haven't been paved yet. Go pave that road versus trying to pave over a road that's already been paved. Mm-hmm. You know, because you're going to trip up and you're going to fall in a bunch of potholes because the person who paved the road knows where the road's going.
Yeah.
Versus you are going, well, if I just get close to this guy, you know, and I've seen people do it. With me especially, they'll try to get close to me just to have conversations with other people, thinking that's what's gonna bring them the jewels.
Yeah.
You know, that's not gonna bring you the jewels.
No, not knowing that the relationships you've created are the relationships you've created.
You know,
back to
unless
that process.
I don't want those relationships anymore. You know,
you're not gonna take them from me.
You're not. And even at that point, it's not about taking away from the other person. It's more or less putting yourself in front of the other person.
So you're just trying to supersede the other person.
Yeah, like you're trying to put yourself in front of the other person.
Yeah.
And it's like, just like I said, and these all this conversation will always come full circle, because when I came here for you.
Yeah. And I appreciate it.
You know?
Yeah.
I didn't come here to say, oh, let me look at the room, let me see what you got going on so I can replicate this product. You know, no. That can't be your intention. Your intention should always be pure. You know? And once you don't have that, I've had people that are just angels walk in my life at the right time, and I'd be going through stuff. I'd be like, God, I feel like everything that I'm trying to do isn't going to work. You know, every step of the way, no matter what it is. You know, today my challenge is different. I have a greater challenge now. How am I going to diversify into 2018 to build a product that it's already sustainable, but how am I going to create the legacy and then diversify the product? How do you do it? Versus going, hey, you know, I saw David Guetta. I want to be like David Guetta.
Yeah.
David Guetta's done it. He's done it a billion times over and over again. I can't be him. I can make a song, you know, and if making songs is my forte, it will work. Just like Jared, that's his thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you step in somebody's lane, if I'm stepping in his lane and like trying to be like him, that ruins the whole concept of watching somebody grow.
Yeah.
How's the guy gonna grow if crab's in a bucket, I'm pulling him down, and we're in the same market. We're in the same market, you know? So if he's doing original content and he's doing remixes, I do mashup. You know, you have to have your lane and keep your lane and not try to be that other guy.
Yeah.
You know? There's nothing wrong with wanting to learn.
Yeah.
From someone.
And new skills are never a bad thing to have.
But know your position.
Yeah.
You know? And know what that person did for you, and have that type of respect for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because people, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that lose themselves in money and the accolades.
Yeah.
And the exposure, the instantaneous likes. Yeah. For that reason, I don't have social media except for Instagram and my website.
Yeah.
And if I get tired of that,
I'll get rid of it.
I'll get rid of it because that's not the product.
Yeah.
The product's me.
Yeah.
You know, the phone's not going to stop ringing because guess what? We still use phones.
Yeah.
Until the moment we stop using phones.
And Instagram is the only way you're booking people, which
that's
not
happen.
True. Yeah.
That's not even a real thing.
Yeah.
You know.
No, and if that were to ever happen, that would be the only way that it would.
Yeah.
That would be the process. But because we live in the world we live in, and email and your website and all that stuff is the way we communicate with each other, you could get rid of all the social media.
Everything is elementary. That's why kids still go to elementary school. Yeah. And that's why I keep my business very elementary. Yeah. I email back. I answer my phone calls. That's the only two things I need to do in practice. What else do I need to do? Yeah.
Make sure your books are right so when you get audited.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different story. That was a good story because it was more of when you run a business and you make a lot of money, you bring a lot of attention to yourself, and Uncle Sam wants a piece of everything. Yep. You know, and I have really, really good accountants. Yep. So I've been through that hurdle, and thank God I was lucky enough to end up on the other side of it based on having family history in finance.
I'm sure the background of going through those spreadsheets, doing expense reports, doing all that stuff at the beginning was probably.
But it happens to everybody at some point in their lives, no matter if you're rich, you're poor. It's just, can you, when the fire's burning, can you walk across the coal? Yeah. You know, and I go, you know what? Yeah, why not? Because that's why it was there. You know, if I wasn't making any money, no one's knocking on my door. Yeah. You know, that's the other thing. So all those things are blessings. That's why I keep saying it's the failing forward that gets you prepared for where you need to be. Yeah. You know, you can't get there without that like hurdle, you know, and that's why I talk about it, because a lot of people come in and they'll just not talk about the significance of those aspects of the business. Financial aspect of a business is huge. Yeah. You know, and I was paying my taxes. Yeah. So it wasn't even like I wasn't paying. It was just like, hey, we want more money out of you. You made more money than we thought. Yep. You know, let's comb this over one more time. Yep.
And you can have all the skills in the world as far as the artistic side. If you don't at least have somebody on your team, let alone yourself, who's keeping up with the other side of the business, you're not going to make it through the fire, as you're saying.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
you have to learn all aspects.
Well, either way, you can get through the fire.
Yeah.
But are you going to be taken advantage of, or are you going to be the one saying, you know what, that's not right. I'm actually here to show you what it really is. Yeah. You know, and the great ones always do that. The great ones, that's why it's like LeBron. You're down 3-1 in the finals. Everybody have wrote your script already, and you go, "This is it for me. This was my moment. I'm not gonna let him take it away from me." Mm-hmm. You know, and that's when willpower comes in. You know, if you don't have that relentlessness to say, I'm facing danger right now, but if I choke, I'm gonna be eaten by this lion, you know? But if I just stare this lion down and I make him realize that I'm not out here out of fear, you know, people sense that. Yeah. You know, and that's what you were talking about in the beginning. It's like you know, people know who they can pick on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
you know who's in the room, who's got that fire and who doesn't.
Yeah. And that's my thing. I walk around with that. I have to walk around with that. If I don't leave my house with that armor every day, just like you were saying about society and where, like, how hard it was to continue doing what you were doing before, because society is so negative and so instantaneous and so all about me, and I don't care about the next person. You know, if that's how people walk outside every day. I think about everybody else before I do anything that I do. How will this affect you if I don't show up? You know, you're working on something. If I don't show up, how does that affect you? How does that affect our relationship?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not just thinking, you know, I just got off a plane. I was out of the country for 5 days.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big deal. No, I'm not a big deal. I'm a guy that breathes the same air as you. And
Yeah.
I am just getting up every day trying to understand why we are here. You know, and luckily I had something that people want to, you know, have at their events, you know, and that's what makes the difference. So
sum it all up, balance. That's
the keynote of the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Randolph. This has been awesome, and I hope you'll come back. I hope this is something you want to do again in the future.
Part two.
Part two. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Thank you very
boss.
much.
Appreciate you having me.